Namaste and welcome to another episode of the Vichar Manthan podcast. I am your host Sumit Sharma, and it's my great honor to be hosting a project just like this where we look at the world and we try to understand it through the lens of Dharma to see if it can stand up to the test of time, see if it's sustainable for the world and the planet, and really just an attempt to understand Dharma a little bit further, make it more digestible for us all. So as ever, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, YouTube, all your favorite streaming platforms. And please do email in podcast@vicharmanthan.org if you have particular questions that you'd like us to address. Very privileged today to have on the show today Dr. Sailesh Rao, who has a PhD in electrical engineering from Stanford. He developed some of the very early internet systems, protocols that power the internet today. So working in IT and AI, it's an honor to be here as well, and we'll go into that in more detail. But you've stopped all of that, you've given it all up, you've now moved into helping the world go vegan. So we've had episodes before about veganism with Dina Ahern, which you know very well. And now you are the executive director and founder of an organization called Climate Healers. So, Sailesh, namaste and welcome to the Vichar Manthan podcast.
Thank you for having me, yes.
It's, as I was saying, it's an honor for me. I work in IT. Okay. I remember when the internet was found. My dad brought home our first laptop in 1994. We had a computer before, but 1994, Windows 3.1. And so watching the internet boom, working in IT myself, watching him work in systems engineering, now being a solutions architect myself at what they call the front end of AI.
Right.
And to being sitting opposite someone who, and you'll have to tell me more details, developed the early protocols that helped transmission go from analog to digital?
That's correct, yes. That's 1000 base T. Yeah. That was gigabit Ethernet. And it became a standard in 1999.
Right.
And then we had it on the motherboard at Intel by 2003, and the internet just took off.
You developed a company which got acquired by
Level 1
Level 1, and then Intel took them on. So
yeah, Intel bought them in 1999.
Right, and so that's pre-internet boom, really.
Right.
Did you know at the time what you were working on was going to be what it is today?
I had no idea.
Wow.
I had no clue, So we were just saying, okay, can we convert it from analog to digital and make it faster? And the answer was yes.
And that's powered not just internet, but like HD, TV,
right.
video, output, audio, pretty much everything as we know as technology today when it comes to transmission of data.
Right.
You were a fundamental part of that.
Well, yeah, I was working on the digital signal processing aspects of all that, yes.
Excellent. That's amazing. And now your world is totally different.
My world is completely different now.
Right.
So since 2006, I have not looked at anything in hardware or engineering. I've been just focusing on the environment.
But you've taken skills and frameworks and structures of systems right. to the work you do today. As far as I can see online. Like, there's, even just on the website, there's like webinars, presentations, seminars, real upskilling elements of the area in which you are working in. There was like 8 risky behaviors and
right.
you've really structured it for people to understand. So that's pretty amazing. Like how have you come to develop things like that? Is it just clear passion? You look at data a hell of a lot to power your arguments?
Basically, I'm doing systems engineering for the environment. And so this is my skill. And I'm looking at the environment from that angle and saying, how do you transform a system that's heating the climate to a system that will heal the climate? And so that starts, as you said, with the 8 risky behaviors. Because fundamentally those 8 risky behaviors are responsible for 90% of the healthcare economy.
Right.
And so it's being encouraged today because it'll grow the economy, the healthcare economy.
Of course. What's amazing to me is I think people know there's a problem.
Right.
Know is a strong word, perhaps. They're aware, but it's very external to them.
Right.
I don't think people can grasp very easily things that are not in their day-to-day life, things that don't affect them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is that a challenge?
It is a challenge. It's waking people up to the fact that they're all being sort of herded in this direction. And the direction is towards heating.
Right.
It's not that anyone is deliberately sitting there saying, I'm going to heat the planet today. It's just, this is what we have been doing for 10,000 years, and we're just going along with the flow.
So that's an interesting. So it's for 10,000 years we've been heating the planet, right?
Right.
I mean, pre a lot of things. So I was looking at some of your lectures online and stuff, and I think this will be really good actually on the podcast to really break it down for people. And you were talking about there's 9 planetary transgressions. So these are large-scale changes that, if happen to Earth, or even just one of them can have a detrimental effect.
Yes.
And you were saying that we've actually crossed 6 of them.
Right.
So we're in dire straits. I know people talk about climate change, global warming, and this is what I think. For people, there's always big problems going on.
Right.
Why is it important to discuss it now? Like, what's...
It's reached a point where it is accelerating. And as you mentioned, the 9 planetary boundaries, this is a framework for understanding how we can sustain life on Earth.
Okay.
Okay, these 9 planetary boundaries say that if you go beyond these boundaries, you're going to impact life on Earth, right? And on 6 of them, we have transgressed, and we have transgressed into the red zone.
Okay, so there's a buffer, there's limits,
Right.
because not everything is finite. There's
Right.
scales of things,
Right.
and so I think climate change and the 6 of them are beyond repair.
Well, they've gone to the red zone.
Right.
Okay, which means that if you leave it there, any one of these can kill life as we know it on the planet.
Is that something that would happen immediately?
It would happen systemically. But how does life die?
Sounds awful, actually.
Yeah,
A slow death is worth, right?
Is it a slow death? See, when we die, for instance, a lot of our organs are still alive.
Okay.
But there is a system that dies.
Yeah.
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 You know what I mean? So something like that could happen to all life on Earth.
Oh man, zombie state.
Zombie state. This is why I say
People are already there.
well, this is why we have to be very, very cognizant of what is going on and understand how to pull this back. Okay. And it's our duty to inform people. This is why I go around the world talking about this.
And you're on a tour right now,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Traveling, giving people your message, which is
Right.
about go vegan and not be vegan.
Right, go vegan.
Because
and I'm saying when you go vegan, you actually are going to impact all 6 of these transgressions and pull them towards the green zone from the red zone.
So
That's the power of veganism.
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I'm convinced of the argument, but that's not the same as making rational change. And I think
Right.
if we can logically, through a process or a structure, I mean, you're doing this already anyway, but help people understand what those worldly problems are, right? And we'll go through them. So, but the stats are wild. So when you're talking about animal agriculture, which I think is the core of being vegan,
Right. Yeah.
let's leave that there, because I'm sure when I hear vegan, this is what I think people think. They're like, oh, my plant-based burger, or,
Right.
you know, it's food-related immediately. Not, they don't think about leather in chairs or belts, and then there's like pharmaceutical industries. There's the supporting industries. It's quite a lot to unpick.
Right. Veganism is really about not using animals for any purpose whatsoever as much as possible. Okay, so that's the definition. As far as is possible and practicable, avoid all forms of exploitation of animals for food, clothing, or any other purpose. So it's a stance of saying we won't use animals because we now are in a position where we have to serve animals. See, how do you serve animals? How do you bring them back? See, if you look at how fast wild animals are dying off, you realize that there's like there is a huge decrease that's been happening over the last few decades. Okay, and we know if we keep decreasing like that, if it keeps decreasing like that, it'll reach a point of no return.
So if all the wild animal, if enough wild animals die, that will affect us?
Enough wild animals die, we are next. Because life as we know it is going to end.
Wow.
Okay? So this is why it is critical. So, and when we sit around as if nothing has happened, we are showing a lack of awareness.
But if I ask my friends,
right,
you're killing wild animals. Well, no, I'm not. I
You're
go to
not.
work, I pay my taxes, I do,
Right.
I do everything nice, I recycle my whatever plastic.
Right. How am I killing wild animals?
Yeah.
Right. So you have to look at why are wild animals dying? They're dying because, number one, because we're taking away their space.
Okay.
We're taking away their land.
Sure.
And why are we taking away their land? Mainly because some people are demanding more and more animal foods. Okay. So it's animal agriculture is the leading cause of habitat destruction.
Animal agriculture is the big problem.
Animal agriculture is the leading cause of habitat destruction. And animal agriculture is like any other industry, wants to grow. So they are promoting the consumption of animal foods to people, the animal skin, using animal skin for this, animal fat for glue. I mean, we use animals for all kinds of things. I mean, it's disgusting if you think about it.
I think that's an important part because
Right.
people think of food straight away,
Right.
but it's a lifestyle.
It's an entire system that uses every part of the animal for some product or the other.
That sounds terrible.
It is terrible, okay? We will look back on this era and say, what were we thinking?
There was a mockumentary on BBC
Called Carnage.
Yes.
Yes.
And it was in the future, and your grandparents, they were actually casting society aside because their ancestors were carnivores.
Right.
That's so interesting. But, yeah, people laugh about it, but I think
It
there's
is
a
true.
truth
It's
to it.
going to happen.
And so animal agriculture is responsible for halving the number of trees on the planet.
Exactly.
Did we not know this? People don't care?
See, we know this.
Why is it a problem?
It's a problem because those trees store carbon. A tree is a store of carbon. Okay? It's carbon that used to be in the atmosphere as CO2. That gets sucked down through photosynthesis and gets stored in the trunks and the branches of the trees. We have got half the trees on the planet. Okay? Simultaneously, we have been burning fossil fuels. So we have increased the CO2 level in the atmosphere by about 50% from what it was in pre-industrial levels. And because we increased the CO2 level in the atmosphere by 50%, the remaining trees have bulked up.
Okay.
And they have compensated for the fact that we have cut half the trees on the planet.
Okay.
Okay. So now they are saying, now we know that if we bring back the trees that we cut, we can literally reverse climate change.
Because the big problem of climate change is
the
too much
excess
carbon
in the
air, in the atmosphere,
Right.
which is causing the planet to heat.
Right.
And we've cut half the trees, and it sounds obvious if you put it like that. Is this why there are big rewilding projects?
Rewilding is the only way out. It's the only way out for climate change. It's the only way out for biodiversity loss because you can give back land to animals.
How much land?
We have about, we are estimating that there is about 14 billion acres that we can return back to nature if the world goes vegan.
What's that as a percentage of land on
It's about 40% of the ice-free land area of the planet.
Is currently being used today
to graze animals or to grow crops to feed animals. And the animals are only giving us 12% of the food we eat in terms of total weight.
Wow.
85% of the food we eat is already plant-based, meaning the world is almost already vegan.
So we could, if you got rid of animal agriculture, which
Right.
can't happen overnight, but you could give the earth 40% more land back. You could have 40% more wildlife.
You can return that back to forests. And you can return the entire ocean back to nature. Because the ocean is only giving us 3% of the food we eat, and for which we have been destroying the entire ocean.
Yeah,
it makes absolutely no
fish,
sense.
fish farming is horrendous as well.
It's horrendous for the planet. Okay, and
not even at this is where I think people struggle with veganism is, and the point there is not even at an ethical level, even if you don't care about animal or fish dying, just what it's doing to the planet for humans to live on is damage enough.
Absolutely.
I don't think people grasp that.
See, people don't understand what it takes to bring fish to our plates. Right now, we have to use big data software and GPS hardware to find the last remaining fish in the ocean, direct the ships to go over there and catch them. That's how fish is getting to our plates. Okay, they're literally just disappearing. So we have 10 times as many ships to catch fish today than we did in the 1950s, and our catch is half.
Wow, it's running out.
It's running out, okay? And we are bottom trawling an area the size of South America every year in the ocean to catch the fish.
And that's probably having an extremely profound effect on the health of the water, of the ocean, of the biodiversity, the way, I don't know, the plants and everything.
It's like you're deforesting an area the size of South America every year.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Every year. Because when you bottom trawl, you're just grabbing everything that's growing and taking it off. So it's like, and right now the ocean is still compensating for our misdeeds. See, even though we have done that,
Mother Nature is forgiving.
Mother Nature is still forgiving. She's saying, okay, I'll fix that. Now, will you
but
listen?
It's becoming, we're on the red line.
It's absolutely. All indicators are there are 6 major fires on the planet.
And I think the other difference with Joe Blogs, going vegan, being woke, is you're coming purely from data.
Right.
Everything we're talking about, and this is all statistically proven.
Yes.
Why is it not spoken about more?
It's not spoken about more because it's being framed as an economic growth paradigm.
Okay.
To frame it as economic growth, you cannot stop this activity. You have to now create more activity that will grow the economy. And that happens if you just replace energy infrastructure with solar panels and wind farms and so on.
But they don't repair the damage.
They don't repair the damage to the biodiversity. They don't repair the damage to land use change, to water use, the fresh water. The only thing it addresses possibly is climate change. Okay? It doesn't address any of the others. I told you there are 6 fires on the planet.
Yeah.
Okay? Climate change is actually the 4th fire.
Let's go through all 6. But before that, fossil fuels. The term alone, I think, is a buzzword now.
Right.
And gets all the attention in the media. Right. That's why we've got electric cars. That's why we're going smart cities. Right. Because we're burning too much fuel or it's running out. But you seem to think otherwise.
No, I'm not saying we shouldn't address the fossil fuel issue.
But
it's a secondary issue. The number one issue is our lifestyle. See, if you keep consuming more and more every year, okay, we are already consuming 80% more than what the Earth can sustain.
Okay.
We are already consuming 80% more. So if everybody wants to consume more and more, how can the Earth sustain that?
Sure. Let's make that real for people. What consuming more and more? We're eating 80% more food?
We are eating way more animals in our food, and that cannot be sustained. We are buying way more things than we need. We are deliberately making things obsolete so that you have to go and buy more. There are companies that deliberately make sure that their product won't last too long. Otherwise, people are not going to come back and buy more. So every corporation, we have told them, you have to grow. And what are they going to do? They're going to try and grow. So this entire paradigm that's based on growth is what's causing the problem.
And your solution is, instead of looking at growth, we should look at healing.
We should look at healing. We should look at staying within the bounds of the planet and optimizing within the bounds of the planet. I'm saying, take the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN. Okay, there are 17 of them. There is goal number 8, which is economic growth within that Sustainable Development Goals. And I ask you, If you meet the other goals, if you meet no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education.
Naturally, everything...
If you meet those goals, do you care that the economy is growing?
I suppose not. You're looked after in another way.
Exactly.
Life is
so
more
why
exuberant.
is that goal there? That goal is a Trojan horse that has been put there in the UN so that we can all pretend to meet the other goals by just growing the economy. And I'm saying I'm sick and tired of pretending to solve problems. I'm an engineer. I really solve problems. When I get to it, I work on things, and I look at redundant goals like this, and I say, take this out of my face. You think I'm an idiot? You're showing me this goal number 8 and pretending to meet all the goals by just doing goal number 8. Take it out. So I'm demanding that the UN drop goal number 8.
Wow.
And replace it with goal number 18, which is zero animal exploitation.
So it's still on there.
Still on, well, there is no zero animal exploitation right now as a goal.
Right.
I'm saying put that goal in there, and that will make all the other goals easy to meet. Okay? So that will create a vegan world in which we can all thrive. Right? All animals can thrive, people can thrive, and we will have all the food we need. And we will be in harmony with nature, we'll be in harmony with the wild animals, and they'll come back, and we'll have to serve the wild animals, right? We have lost 90% of certain animals, 95% of certain animals. I'm not sure we can even bring them back. It's that dire.
That's a sad state of affairs that humanity today has caused those problems.
Right.
You're talking about healing the earth, reversing the 6 planetary transgressions. How long will that take?
Well, it'll take maybe 2 or 3 decades, the healing phase.
Okay.
So basically I'm saying we have been heating the climate, and we've done a really good job of heating the climate. Okay, so the Earth can never go back another ice age again.
Okay.
As long as we are around.
Right.
And so now we have overheated the planet by about 1.4 degrees Celsius. And now we have to figure out how to cool the planet. So if we cool the planet and bring that temperature back to the pre-industrial levels, I know that setting is stable. It's a stable state in the system. Okay, I'm looking at it purely as a system. So I know that there is a stable state at the temperature level that was there in the pre-industrial state, and because it was there for 10,000 years like that. Okay, so it was a stable state. So bring it back to the stable state, and you can hold it there for as long as you want. But if we keep heating, I do not see any stable states as you heat it. It doesn't stabilize. It keeps going up and up and up, right? And so I don't see us thriving if we keep heating the climate.
So let's go through these planetary transgressions.
Right.
So freshwater,
Right.
talked about the problem of fish farming, and you're saying reducing animal agriculture could give us an entire ocean back.
The entire ocean will come back, and then you will return 40% of the land back to nature, on which if you bring back the original forests, the freshwater cycles will reverse.
Okay.
And you'll get more and more fresh water from what we have today. Okay?
Freshwater, number 1. Number 2, the land system.
Land system. And that, when you return 40% of the land back to nature, you turn that from red to green.
Okay. I didn't realize there was a land problem. Number 3?
Number 3 is climate change.
Climate change.
And that, if you bring back the 3 trillion trees that we cut, and you plant those 3 trillion trees, you don't have to plant all 3 trillion trees. You plant only 1 trillion trees, nature will plant the other 2 trillion.
Yeah, I imagine so.
So, but you have to plant the original ecosystems, because you're trying to return back to the ecosystems that were there 200 years ago. Okay, because that's the stable state.
That would be an amazing project. 1 trillion trees.
Isn't that an amazing project to be working in? And that's what our generation is going to start doing now. Because that, to me, from climate heating to climate healing, and then climate harmonizing. Okay. So those are the 3 stages of a caterpillar turning to a butterfly.
Right.
Okay. So this transition from climate heating to climate healing has to happen within the next few years.
Because you've made a promise.
Yes.
For 2026.
Right.
That's not far away.
Right.
What's the promise?
The promise I made is to my granddaughter that we will become a largely vegan world by 2026, by the time she turns 16. Because if we don't, we will still be killing wild animals, and there won't be many left.
So that's not far away. What's the measure of success?
Well, the measure of success is the growth of the vegan movement.
Okay.
And it is accelerating in a lot of places.
Yeah.
And so this is why I'm
There's no restaurant in London that you can go to now that doesn't have its own vegan menu.
Yeah.
And that's just food as well. I'm so curious about like large buildings and systems and ecologies and transportation. Like, how does that all, without greenwashing? But we'll come to that. So climate change. After climate change is chemical pollution.
Chemical pollution. And chemical pollution, when the world goes vegan, the trees that come back will take the chemical pollution from the environment and store it in their trunks. Trees are amazing life forms. Okay, they take water from the ground and they filter the water. They filter the water, they store all the chemical pollution in their trunks, and they transpire fresh water through the leaves.
There must be organizations out there that are planting trees on a large scale. What could we do to plant 1 trillion trees?
There are organizations that are trying to plant trees on a large scale. Simultaneously, the animal agriculture industry is cutting down forests.
Wiping them out.
Because they want more and more, they want to serve more and more beef to people, more and more cheese to people. And they are promoting the beef and cheese consumption. And the governments are promoting the cheese and beef consumption. Because this entire system is about growth.
And
growth,
that makes money.
growth.
So there's a powerful meat industry that...
It's all about growth, okay?
Yeah.
Why is it about growth? Because the architecture of the currency system is designed around growth. And I say, can we not design a currency system? Can we not design a system around sufficiency? Of course we can.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not that hard to figure this out. So of course we can. It's about systems engineering. And if you just say insist on growing, and every government is trying to grow their economy, okay? We are going to kill everything off. It's stupid.
Hard work.
It's absolutely. To me, it is like sitting around in a home, in a house that is completely on fire, and cranking up the AC instead of putting out the fire. That's what our governments are doing, and that's what the UN is doing with its economic growth as goal number 8. They think we cannot figure this out. They think we are so stupid that we don't understand what they're trying to do. And to me, treating people as idiots, as stupidity, assuming that there is stupidity in the masses, and then creating these so-called goals with a Trojan horse goal in there. Okay? To me, it's disgusting. I'm demanding that the UN change that.
You're clearly passionate and well informed on the matter. I don't think Joe Public is, but why? They rely on the data that's given to them and the media that pays that way, which you could argue is paid in some way or biased, or it's all we know.
Well, people assume that growth is fundamental. Okay, we have to grow, and everybody just goes along with this story that growth is fundamental. And I'm saying growth was fundamental for the caterpillar. Growth was fundamental for the heating system, climate heating system. We have overheated now. We have grown beyond. And we all know that we have grown beyond what the planet can sustain. Okay? And it's been known now for 50 years? And still we are growing? Have you not figured this out?
Yes, so you put it simply, and I think that's good. That's important. I want to finish off the other two issues. So nitrogen and phosphorus loading.
Nitrogen and phosphorus.
What does that mean?
It means that we are taking excess nitrogen from the atmosphere and turning it into fertilizer, and taking excess phosphorus from the ground and turning it into fertilizer.
For the animals.
To grow crops to feed the animals, and the excess fertilizer is running off into the ocean. It's creating dead zones everywhere. It's killing off fish.
And some of this stuff is synthetic. It's not good for you. The animals eat it. People eat it. They're getting ill.
It's a horrible system that we have created. Okay.
And they know this?
They know this, and of course, and we know that if the world goes vegan, you can cut out all that food that you're growing to feed animals.
How much is that?
That's about half the crops.
half the food we make in the world goes to feed animals
that then give us 12% of the food we eat.
And the rest is wasted, isn't it?
See, hunger is a choice. World hunger is a choice we make 3 times a day.
our corporates
Yeah.
have decided for us.
Yeah, they've decided that you are going to eat animal foods. They've convinced us that if you don't eat animal foods, you're not going to get enough protein. And look at me. I haven't had a single bite of animal food for the last 16 years, and I'm fine.
13 years for me.
No? And so I'm getting plenty of protein.
There's plenty of vegan diets, protein sources, all the rest of
All
it.
plant foods have all amino acids.
Yeah.
Okay, all plant foods have all the protein that you need. So just eat enough calories and you will get enough protein.
Fine. And the last one that we've crossed is biodiversity.
Right.
And you've said this is actually the worst one.
This is the worst because everything impacts biodiversity. And
But also, therefore, the most complex to understand?
it is actually the simplest to understand because you're killing wild animals.
Right.
Look up in the sky and you will see hardly any birds today. Think back how many birds there were 40 years ago.
I used to remember, like, I'm not 40 years old, but I can remember birds singing
Right.
and all that. You don't hear that much
You
anymore.
don't hear that anymore. You know, and we had a ritual in our custom that on the anniversary of our grandparents' death, we would make a feast and feed the birds. And the birds is like our ancestors coming down to eat and go, right? And when my parents died, my mom died in 1997, my father died in 2001, and they both died in February. And one February, I was in India, and I asked my sister, why aren't you doing this? And she said, look up in the sky and tell me how many birds there are. So if we put the food out now and no birds come, it's like our ancestors are telling us we don't want to come anymore.
I take great spiritual inspiration from that story because it's the connection, the energy, the bio-spiritual health of this organism is linked into our ancestry, into nature, into the animals, ecology. Right. And so your HEAL anagram, Human Earth Animal Liberation.
Right.
What do you mean by liberation?
It means freeing us from being slaves.
To this system.
This system. This system has enslaved all of us, okay? And making us do things that we really don't want to do. That we are being told you need it, okay? And to do that, we have enslaved the animals. Animals are, there are 80, 90 billion animals who are being killed every year, and they don't have a life. They're just being brought into this world, impregnated by industry, and brought into this world, and then forcibly killed at 1/10 of their lifespan in order to become food for people. Okay, so unnecessarily. And why? Because that's the root of all the other things that have to happen in the system. When you eat animal foods, you'll get sick. And they know that. Okay, you'll get sick, and therefore then you will need medicine.
Which is made by the animal agriculture system.
So we have an entire, it's a farming. They're farming us.
How on earth?
They're factory farming us, okay?
Could you, it's all part of the system. So you were also the exec producer of Cowspiracy,
Right.
of What the Health, of Milked, and a whole bunch of others.
Documentaries.
You've got 22 peer-reviewed papers, 10 plus patents, written white papers.
Yeah, I've done my best to educate people that this is what's going on. And the documentaries are a good way to educate people that we are being frog marched down this tube that leads to nowhere, that leads to just death and destruction and diseases. So death, disease, and destruction. This is what the system is based on, the current system. And we need to create a system that's based on health, happiness, and harmony. And why wouldn't you want to do that?
I think the world is waking up to this. And that's why I asked the question, how long will this all take?
So creating a system, making a decision to transform from heating to healing, is any one of us can do that anytime. Every one of us can do this anytime.
So someone listening to the podcast at home now,
They can say, yeah, I want to start healing and not heating anymore. I want to start healing myself.
what are some practical steps they could take to do that?
Well, do the opposite of the 8 risky behaviors.
Okay.
So the 8 risky behaviors are, and these are the 8 risky behaviors that the American College of Lifestyle Medicine identified. as causing 90% of the healthcare costs in the world.
Wow.
Okay.
So it's worthwhile doing it even just for yourself, if not
Just
for
for
the
yourself.
planet. So
Start
what
with
are
you.
they? What are they?
So because to me, healing the planet begins with healing yourself.
Sure.
Always. Okay. So the 8 risky behaviors are poor diet, then physical inactivity, then smoking, then lack of health screening, then stress management, poor stress management, 5th. 6th is inadequate sleep. Then 7th is poor standard of care. And 8th is excessive alcohol consumption. So these 8 risky behaviors are responsible for 90% of healthcare costs and 15 chronic diseases.
So this could solve a lot of problems, right?
Exactly.
If we could heal ourselves, the healthcare issue. So then when we do need specialist healthcare, it'll be available.
Right.
Right? And the economy wouldn't suffer as a result. We'll be more fruitful, better lives. It sounds too good to be true. What's the challenge? Why are people not doing it?
Well, it requires self-discipline. Okay. It requires...
And you're saying the discipline has been marched out of us?
Yes.
Or we're disciplined to the wrong goals?
You are disciplined to do the 8 risky behaviors. Because the 8 risky behaviors are responsible for 90% of the healthcare economy. And if you're trying to grow the economy, you need to get people to indulge in the 8 risky behaviors. So how do they do that? Well, they put candy at eye level for children. So they first get children to be addicted to bad food. Okay.
Have you had strong words to warn you off from speaking about what you speak about?
No, I mean, it doesn't matter what anyone tells me. I'm going to say these things. Okay.
Sure.
So to me, it doesn't.
It's a big industry.
Right.
And like Cowspiracy went viral.
Right.
It's on Netflix.
Right. What the Health went viral too.
What the Health, Milked. There's a whole bunch more.
Right.
And that's just one form of media. Right? There's plenty of podcasts, there's YouTube clips, there's books, documentaries, you're writing papers, technical assessments, you've co-authored things. So I tip my hat to you, you're doing a lot of work. What else needs to happen? Tell us about Climate Healers.
Yeah, Climate Healers, we conduct frequent meetings. So every quarter we meet. We call it a vegan convergence of the people. And we are focused on creating a vegan world as quickly as possible. Because the sooner you can become, the sooner the world goes vegan, the sooner we start healing from heating. Okay, because as I said, going vegan addresses all 6 planetary boundary transgressions, including climate change. And and the other 3 that we haven't transgressed also.
We're not far away from them either.
That will also be beneficially impacted by the world going vegan. Okay, the other 3 are like ocean acidification.
Okay.
And there again, once you suck down the CO2 from the atmosphere, the ocean will become less acidic.
Okay.
So it's going to improve.
This is why we need alkaline diets now.
Right. I mean, alkaline diets and plant-based diets.
And what are the other 2 planetary
the other 2 planetary transgressions. The other one is the ozone hole.
Okay.
And
which we don't talk about anymore.
We don't talk about anymore because we have done something to heal that.
Okay.
So it's mending.
This is a dharmic platform. Mm-hmm. I think I understand how all of this is ahimsa and relates to dharma. But could you tell us how that happens for you? How are you? Because you talked about duty earlier as well. It's our duty to do this.
Yeah, it's our duty because I consider it as dharma. Okay, what is dharma? So what is the right thing to do? That's what dharma really is. What's the right thing to do for you and I? For each one of us, we look at our swadharma. What is the right thing to do for myself? What is my talent? What do I have to offer to the world? So I start with that. So I'm a systems engineer. I said, okay, I can analyze systems and I can tell you why systems behave the way they behave and how do you transform systems. I can tell you how to do that because that's what I've done throughout my life, right? At least my professional career. Next comes Kula Dharma. What is the right thing to do for my family? And that depends on how you define family. Okay, I define my family as including everyone.
All the animals.
All the animals.
Everything.
I mean, to me, they all become part of my family. I look at a child; that child is my granddaughter, my grandson. And so to me, it's so that becomes all-encompassing. Okay. The third is Yuga Dharma. What is the right thing to do for the age that you're in? And this age is an age with climate change, with all of these environmental issues that are now in the front burner. And we have to address it because it's like a fire on our planet. There are 6 fires on our planet. And we have to put out those 6 fires. Otherwise, the planet does not have a future. Okay? Life does not have a future on this planet. So that to me has become primary. And the last is Sanatana Dharma, which is what is the right thing to do from the perspective of love and compassion. So this is universal Dharma. So you look at these 4 dharmas and then you choose. That's what Lord Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita. And so that's what I'm trying to do. Saying what is the right thing to do for myself is to analyze the system, write papers about why it is behaving the way it's
Because
behaving.
that's your skill and capacity, and you're able to channel and passion that through a worldview, which helps you shape your dharma.
Right. And I see how people are trying to deceive others. I can see that, how the UN is trying to do that. This is why I get really passionate about goal number 8. It should never have been there in the first place. Because it's a redundant goal. Anytime someone comes with a redundant goal to my office, and I'm a systems engineer, I throw him out the window. Because it's intolerable that people would try to con you like this. This is a deception. So anyway, that's my systems engineering background. And then comes, of course, for my family. And then, this is why I go around talking about veganism and helping the world go vegan as quickly as possible, because it addresses all 6 planetary boundary transgressions.
And you've got a number of projects that help do that. So Climate Healers obviously is your main. But there was was it 1,000 grandmothers?
Yeah, million vegan.
Million vegan grandmothers. What's that?
So it's the grandmothers of the world. If you think about it, there are over 100 million vegans on the planet.
Right.
Okay? There are at least 1 million of them who are vegan grandmothers.
Okay.
So these grandmothers are saying, we represent all the vegan grandmothers, and we are now going to write to people and say, you are doing this, you should do it this way instead.
Like a grandmother.
So, like a grandmother. So it's basically advising people of the world how to take care of the planet for the grandchildren of the world, and all children, the children of all species.
Which I think is so interesting, because the promise you've made your granddaughter isn't just to her, it's for the children of the world.
It is the promise that my generation, our generation, has made to the next generation.
To help this planet, Earth, life as we know it, be sustainable, be fruitful, to thrive, to grow.
For life to thrive on the planet, the biodiversity to thrive on the planet, and to stop this monoculturization of the planet, which is what's going on. We are trying to turn the entire biomass of the planet into livestock and monocultured crops, and
stuff's not even healthy for you.
And cockroaches. I mean, what are we doing?
It's wild when you think of it like that.
Yeah.
So actually, we're gonna go into what I call the rapid fire round.
Okay.
It's a quick set of questions so our audience can get to know you a little bit better. So, what goes into your perfect breakfast smoothie?
Bananas, spinach, or some greens, some herbs, and that's about it.
Excellent. Yeah. What's the best piece of advice anyone's ever given you?
It's from my granddaughter, saying, do your job.
Do your job.
Do your job. That's what she said. Shook her finger in my face and said, do your job.
Wow. And here you are doing it. Do you have a favorite book?
Yes, it's Awareness by Anthony de Mello.
Okay, we'll put the link in the description below. Tell us a moment in your life where you had a paradigm shift.
I would say when I watched Al Gore's presentation on TV, I was shocked.
Okay.
And I said, if half of what he's saying is true, I'm wasting my time.
Really?
So I decided to look into it, and I realized it's actually far worse than what he's saying, and I just closed my Ethernet company and started focusing on the environment full time.
Wow. That's a shift for sure. If you were stranded on a deserted island, what 3 items would you take with you?
I would take my granddaughter and my wife and a good book.
A good book, excellent.
Yeah, Bhagavad Gita.
Do you have a favorite quote?
Yeah, be the change you want to see in the world.
Be the change you want to see in the world. And I think you definitely do represent that. So we've talked about Dharma, sustainability for the. What does sustainability mean to you?
Sustainability is about morality.
Morality.
Absolutely. It's about morality.
Tell
it's
me
about
more.
Ethics. All that is good is sustainable. All that is evil is not.
If you could have one superpower, what would that be?
I would turn the world vegan instantly.
Of course. Okay, fine. Sailesh, I give all our guests that come on the podcast an opportunity to make a commitment. You're doing lots of that already. But is there something in your life you'd like to do more of? Is there a habit you'd like to curb? Is there something that you want to commit to in front of our Vichar Manthan podcast audience?
Well, I'm committing to a vegan world by 2026, November 19th of 2026.
Okay.
That means a largely vegan world, meaning at least 50% of the people in the 7 major countries have to self-report to be vegan.
Is there a central way they can do that? How are you going to measure that?
Well, we have to do surveys, to understand that. But basically, it's just getting more and more people to go vegan around the world.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Great stuff. Take a pause, and then we'll say, and what's the 9th planetary transgression?
The 9th planetary boundary is aerosol loading.
Okay.
And that's all the particles we put into the atmosphere.
Okay.
So that is not yet the point of beyond the green zone. They still think we can put more particles into the atmosphere. But when the world
there's a buffer, that we can still bleed into.
Right. But when the world goes vegan, we will create the environment for the aerosol loading to come down.
Fine.
Okay.
Fine. So, we've spoken about Dharma and the Gita and Bhagavan Krishna and the messages from there briefly, albeit. Mm-hmm. How does the vegan movement and world and way we need to think and Dharma come together? And how then can we solve the issues like Hindus being obsessed by milk and butter? Because it's a big thing. Right. In fact, Dina, who's been on the podcast, who you know as well, she had a whole project around helping the Mandirs reduce milk. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, the milk and butter have a lot of symbolism in Hinduism. Okay, but it's symbolism. It shouldn't be taken literally.
Okay.
See, there is
Bhagavan Krishna, Makhan Chor.
Right, Makhan Chor. Why does he love butter? Because he loves the mind of a devotee. He said that actually in the Bhagavad Gita. Because what is butter? What is milk? What is the symbolism of milk? Why do we pour milk on statues? Milk is the fluid mind that has doubts about God.
Okay.
We want to pour that out. Okay? We want to have no more doubts about God. We want to have faith in God. This is why we do that. And to that milk, you add the thought of God. And you let it curdle. And then you churn it. You get butter. And the butter is a solid mind that has no more doubts about God, which is the mind of a devotee. And this is what Krishna loves. He always said that. He said, a devotee calls for me and I will come. I will drop everything and come to you. Okay? So he loves the mind of a devotee. Now you take that butter and you refine it, you get ghee, which is the refined solid mind that has no more doubts about God, which is the mind of an enlightened person. So this is why we use ghee in our arati to signify enlightenment. But what is enlightenment? Enlightenment means you're seeing things as they are, not as you are. When you see things as they are today, you will realize that ghee is highly contaminated. It's full of chemical pollution because a lot of the chemical pollution that we put into the environment stick to fat cells. They're lipophilic, which means this ghee that you are burning in front of your Lord actually has dioxin in it, all kinds of chemical pollution in it. Is that what you're offering to God? So to me, an enlightened person will no longer use ghee. I mean, it's no longer a symbol of enlightenment. Okay, if you use ghee, it's no longer enlightened.
Fair, very well put.
Right.
The aunties in my local mandir don't know that.
Don't know that. It's okay. We have to educate them.
Sure.
See, this is why we have to go to mandirs and we have to explain to them, look, the symbolism is no longer valid. Okay? It was valid 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago. It's no longer valid. Did not Lord Krishna tell you to update your customs every generation? He said that. It's your duty to look at the current circumstances and change what you're doing. Okay? And what is the current circumstance telling us? I'm saying if you use coconut oil and coconut water instead of milk, and coconut oil instead of ghee, and coconut instead of butter, you have the exact same symbolism and it is valid today.
That's a very, very good point.
It's valid today. Why? It is the same symbolism. Why? Because I remember going to the temple with my mother, and my mother would offer a leaf, a flower, and a fruit to God, and then she would break a coconut. So that leaf,
I broke one this morning.
Yes. So we do that still, right? So the leaf represents our body, the flower represents our mind thinking of God, and the fruit represents our soul. So we are offering our body, mind, and soul to God, and then we are breaking our ego. And out spills coconut water, which is the fluid mind that has doubts about God. What is left is the coconut fruit, which is the solid mind that has no more doubts about God, which is the mind of a devotee. And you take that coconut fruit and you refine it, you get coconut oil, which is a refined solid mind that has no more doubts about God. So it's the enlightened mind.
Perfectly.
And now, if you use coconut oil, you will discover that coconut is actually the purest fruit you could get today.
Excellent.
Because that coconut tree is so tall, and as it takes water from the ground, it is filtering the water every step of the way. Okay? So by the time the water gets to the coconut, it's as pure as it can be.
So there are things people can do sitting in their lifestyles. A few little changes will start to contribute towards the issues that we've got. So it's not a big deal of plant-based burgers, vegan leather, this and that. You can make small material changes to your lifestyle and help yourself. So everyone listening at home, that's a big cause, a big shout to help Sailesh Ji in that movement. But not just for Sailesh Ji, for us, for our children, for the planet, for Earth, to live more
These are
sustainably.
informed changes. It's not like we are making changes because we want to make changes. This is based on the current circumstances and why we need to update our rituals, why we need to update our food habits, why we need to update what we wear. These are informed changes based on the current circumstances.
Very, very interesting. Sailesh, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. I've certainly learned a lot, and I think, IT background and everything that's related in between. It just makes it all the more wholesome for me, but actually also being able to relate this all back to dharmic concepts. And even if you wanted to not use the word dharmic, just sustainable, it makes sense, what everything is saying. I really wonder what your naysayers say. Could you touch on that?
To me, sustainability and dharma are identical. It's another word for dharma. Yeah. Sustainability. It's sustainable. As I said, sustainability is about morality. It's about ethics. It's about doing the right thing.
Do you have a parting message, a few pearls of wisdom for our audience listening to this about changes they could make or advice that you could offer?
So the parting message I have is from the movie Cinderella.
Okay.
That my granddaughter took me to see. Okay. In that, the main character says, "Have courage, be kind, and all will be well."
That's very beautifully put.
It takes courage to be kind when everyone else is unkind around you.
Very, very well put. Sailesh, thank you so much for joining us on the Vichar Manthan podcast. Like I said, I've certainly learned a lot, and I just think the movement, climate healers, even just on your website alone, there is such rich content for people to self-educate, self-learn. But yeah, for everyone listening at home, please do email in, let us know what you thought, drop your comments below, like, subscribe, share, and you can learn more about Dr. Sailesh Rao and all the wonderful work he's done, even just for your internet and maybe for the vegan movement and the world as well. This was the Vichar Manthan podcast. My name is Sumit Sharma. Namaste. Namaste.